Hello everybody, welcome back to the Sister Mountain podcast. Now I have not recorded for quite a while, so we have lots to catch up on today. I've got a few finished objects, including my finished Eva cardigan, as well as a slipover that you haven't even seen yet because it was cast on and finished in the time between my last recording. I've also got lots of things on my needles, including some of my own design work. I also want to share some of my plans for the coming month. So grab a project, grab a cup of tea or something, and let's have a chat. So in case we haven't met yet, my name is Clare Mountain-Manipon. I am the designer and teacher behind Sister Mountain. You may also have heard of Sweater Design School, which is my online school teaching knitters how to design pullover patterns that other people can knit. I live here in London, England with my husband Ulysses and our lovely little boy Nico. And yeah, this YouTube channel is all about, a monthly podcast where I talk about the knitting projects that I'm working on, whether it's knitting from other people's patterns or knitting from my own. And also, I'm also sharing some kind of knitting pattern design education here. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, be sure to subscribe. Today I am wearing my tempo top, which is knitted in BC Garn Summer in Kashmir, and this is a design that I will plan to release, I'm hoping end of next month, so end of June. And yeah, it's a lovely design, it's very airy, and I look forward to telling you a bit more about it later on in the episode. So the first FO that I want to share with you today is my Eva cardigan, which is designed by PetiteKnit. I knitted mine in Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt in the colourway Sunny Lime, and it's a lovely, vibrant, spring-like green. It has kind of a touch of yellow in it, like it says in the name. It's a sunny, happy colour. I loved the process of making this. It flew off the needles. Peer Gynt is supposedly a DK weight. For me, it leans heavier. I ended up knitting mine with a 5mm needle, which is actually 2 sizes bigger than the pattern suggested. I am a tight knitter, admittedly, but that is quite a bit bigger than I normally have to go on the needles, so I thought that was kind of interesting. The yarn itself is 100% Norwegian wool, and the feel is not soft, but it's not itchy at all. It's not coarse. It just has quite a, for me it's a very neutral yarn. I'm not admittedly all that sensitive in terms of wool, so I can wear it against my bare skin. It's very warm, and what I found is that I've been wearing it multiple times a week at times since I finished it back in mid-March. And as you can see, I mean, I've not depilled it at all, but there is very little sign of wear on here. Like the odd couple of pills, I can see some on the back of the sleeves, but this is after pretty significant wear. So I'm really delighted with how this is holding up, and for sure I want to use it again. I would certainly consider knitting another Eva cardigan. I like how it integrates into my wardrobe. It feels very true to my own personal style. I could see myself knitting it in maybe like a navy or a blue. To be honest, I could have one in every colour. I won't, but yeah, I'm not opposed to having multiples of this pattern. It's really that good. The only thing that I will say about my sample is purely a me thing. I did bind off the button band a little too tight, so you can see there that it's kind of lifting. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, not really. It's kind of lifting the front bands up at the front because the bind off was a little too tight. I did, like I say, I'm a tight knitter, and I did try to loosen up for the bind off, but clearly not enough. So what I need to do at some point is just rip out that bind off and just do it again. It will take me hardly any time, but for some reason I just cannot muster up the enthusiasm to do it. So I've been wearing it as it is. It's fine, but it will be probably something I go back to fix at some point because I've got loads of the yarn. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen that after I finished this cardigan, I kind of had a bit of a crisis. I genuinely thought I was going to frog it. And it simply was because of the colour. Now, you know, you don't buy yarn this colour without knowing what you're doing, right? You know what you're buying into. It's a very vibrant colour, and I thought I was up for it. But when I tried it on and, you know, with the outfit that I was wearing, it just wasn't working. I was not sure about it. I really had a crisis thinking, oh my gosh, why didn't I choose a more wearable colour? But I had lots of lovely messages from people and saying, you know, give it a try, like it looks great on you. And I thought, you know what, I am going to give it a try. I've put so much work into this and I really have no problem frogging it. Like I love knitting. I would say I'm a product knitter, but I also love the process, so I'm more than happy to frog things if they're not working. And so with this, you know, I would have done it, I would have frogged it, but I thought, you know what, let's give it a shot. So I committed to wearing it every day for a week, the first week that I got it, to find new ways of styling it, and I have found many things that I like how it looks with. So all's well that ends well. I'm delighted with it. I really love the colour. Certainly would like more of this sort of colour, but maybe slightly more softened, a bit more muted, I guess. But yeah, I'm super happy with it. And actually sometimes my outfits do need a pop of colour, and it's so nice to have this. Like I say, I've been wearing it at least once a week ever since I made it. It's getting a little bit too hot for it now, but yeah, it's kind of integrated really well into my wardrobe. Now, the second thing that I finished since my last episode is another scrunchie. As you can see, I used the same yarn as I used in my Eva cardigan. I had loads left over, and yeah, I've actually ended up wearing this a ton. It's a dead simple pattern. It's the second one that I've knitted. It's called the Soho Scrunchie, and it's by Tori Yu. It's a free pattern. And yeah, it's really simple to make. I personally find it a little bit faffy with like the provisional cast on and stuff, but the result is worth it, and I do wear these a lot. So I've got one in like a taupe colour. This is my second one. I'll certainly make more. I actually had it in my head that whenever I finish a project, I'll make a scrunchie in the leftovers, but I haven't actually done that since this one, and I do have a bit of a backlog. But I hold to that decision of, as much as possible, trying to use up my scraps by making scrunchies, because they are so practical and they just add a bit of fun to your outfit, right? I find that, you know, some could say that knitting is kind of my whole personality, and in the summer it feels weird not to be wearing things that I've made, and so it is nice having these little touches that kind of, I guess, hint towards my passion in life. I don't know. It just feels right. So it's nice to have these little touches, and they just look so cute, and you can do them in so many colours. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that, and I see many more in my future. So my next FO is again a bit of a repeat from my last episode. Can you tell that I'm a creature of habit? I knit multiples, and this is no exception. These are the broken rope socks from the Hello Sailor set by Summer Lee, and Summer Lee has kick-started a bit of a sock bug in me, and I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun. My previous ones I just did the athletic stripe. This time I went for the pinstripe. I used Lang Yarns Jawoll again. Thank you as well to the viewer who told me how to pronounce that, because I had no idea. So I was calling it Jawoll, and I think it's Jawoll. Jawoll? Something like that. Please excuse me if I am butchering that. But yeah, I used the same yarn. I chose Dusty Rose for the main colour, and then I had leftovers of the taupe that I used in the first pair of socks, so I thought that kind of integrated nicely into the colours of this. So yeah, I just went with a little pinstripe of the taupe. It's the same sock, you know, it's got a really nice broken rib stitch all over, heel flap and gusset. It's like a reinforced one with slip stitches, so it's really hardy. And I can see myself wearing these for a long time. I normally wear socks that kind of either match my shoes or match my trousers, but which I know is a bit dull. But it's been quite fun having a pop of colour in my socks, even if it is quite a relatively muted colour. It's been fun. So maybe it will inspire future sock projects. And in fact, as I go on and tell you about my whips, you will see that it did inspire future sock projects. So maybe I'm getting a bit wild these days. I knitted these. These are like the second size that have the 64 stitch cast on. They're knitted from the cuff down. I used a 2.25mm needle to achieve the gauge. When I did my first pair of socks, I think I used a needle size bigger, and I did find that they were a little bit big on my foot. So going down a needle size was a good decision. These fit really nicely, and I'll just stick with that now. Whenever I knit this pattern, I think that is a good needle size for me, and it's a good cast on. So yeah, works well, and I'm really, really pleased with them. Yeah. So, fresh off the blocking board, we have my final finished object of this period of time since my last recording, and it is my second Albers sample. I love this. So this yarn, actually I should say the pattern. The pattern is by me. It's actually a pattern that I will be releasing on Tuesday the 21st of May, so just a few days away. I'm so excited. Test knitting is finished and the feedback is coming in, and I'm so pleased with the finished objects that everyone has. But yeah, it's knitted from the bottom up. It uses 3 colours, one main colour which is used in the stitch pattern, but it's also used in the trims, and then 2 contrasting colours. And the stitch pattern is really fun to work, slightly unusual. It's you're only ever working 2 colours in one row, but you will on some rows be doing knits and pearls throughout your colour work. So it creates this really textural, like kind of checkered fabric, and it's really fun to knit. The only thing that is, well, not the only thing, but a tricky element could be that once you get to the armholes and you've split for the front and the back, you will be working the colour work flat, which can be a bit of a new technique for some people, but my test knitters have actually found that once they get into the rhythm of it, they kind of find their feet and it clicks. So it's a fun technique that is worth learning, and yeah, I'm just so pleased with it. So like my previous sample, I used Rerum Natura's Ulysse yarn, and the main colour I chose was Poivre, which is the kind of mid-brown colour. And then I've got the contrasts. I've knitted them in, this one is, I want to say, let me have a look at my notes, Fusain for the kind of very charcoal grey, and then there's like a lighter version of the brown, and that's Poivre et Sel. So it's kind of like just a lighter version of the brown, but with slightly more of a creamy tone to it. But the overall colours are quite cool in tone, like they blend really nicely together. So I'm delighted that I have this sample. I just finished it yesterday, as I said, and already it's, you know, dry. It feels amazing. The yarn is beautiful. It's 100% merino, French merino, I believe. And I feel like I read somewhere that they do sometimes, is it Portuguese merino as well for some of the darker colours? But yeah, it's a sport weight. It has a lot of like softness and bounce to it. It's very light though. It kind of feels like you're not wearing anything, but it's cozy. And it's really nice for colour work. It sticks to one another, so it makes colour work just much easier. And the overall fabric, especially once it's blocked, is very blended and kind of, it melds together. So yeah, I'm super happy because now I've got like my neutral one, I have my colourful one, which was my first sample, so I feel like I've got a lot of versatility in my wardrobe now. Depending on the outfit, depending on the bottoms that I want to wear with it, I've got something that will work. What I've loved as well is seeing the colours that my test knitters have chosen for their own samples. Well, not samples, they're projects. But it's really nice because they are all very different. And I think what's really lovely about this project is it lends itself to creative use of colours. So some have got very highly contrasting colours going on in their sample, bright neon yellows and hot pinks and things like that. And then on the other hand, we've got some samples which are kind of shades of grey and kind of bluey greens. And it means that the overall finished object just looks totally different. You can assert your own kind of style aesthetic on it, and it just soaks it up. Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with the colour. I found again that the piece itself is so easy to wear because you can wear it sleeveless with nothing underneath, and that is, you know, it's a nice look for when it's kind of spring. It's not too warm because obviously it's a colourwork piece, but it works on its own as the weather is starting to transition. But of course I've been wearing mine a lot with t-shirts underneath and shirts, and it's just one of those layering pieces that you can style up your own way. So yeah, I found it to be a really useful, versatile piece for my colourwork, my colourful one, and I'm just so happy to have my neutral one now. So yeah, that is my Albers slipover, and that will be released next Tuesday, the 21st of May, and yeah, I'm just very excited. Okay, so the next thing that I want to show you is not technically an FO, or at least it isn't my FO. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I am a knitwear designer, and as part of my work, I sometimes work with sample knitters to produce samples for my patterns that I'm releasing, and what I am wearing is one of them. This is my Tempo top. It's a sleeveless top that is knitted in BC Garn Summer and Kashmir. The colour, this one is Old Rose. It's my perfect pink actually. It's like a rose pink, maybe leans slightly cool, I would say, and it has a kind of dustiness to it, I guess, but it's still vibrant. It's still saturated. So I love this colour. I want everything in this colour and I find that this colour goes with so much. But the yarn is interesting. I hadn't worked with it previous to using it in this design, so it was a little bit of a risk, but when I did the swatch, I was really pleased with how it knitted up. It felt great. The handle is really interesting. So the yarn is 90% cotton and 10% cashmere, and it has a feel that, like, you can feel it, and it does feel like a plant-based yarn. Like, you can tell that there are plant-based fibres in it because it has that kind of slightly I don't know, like dry feel to it. There isn't that kind of hairiness that you would get with an animal fibre, but it's softer and it's more pliable. It's slightly more drapey. It has maybe less structure, which works well for a top like this. And yeah, it's a really nice yarn. What I have noticed since ordering the yarn for the sample is it can be a little bit tricky to get hold of. So that is a shame because I've designed the top in it. You can get it. It's easier to get hold of, I think, in Europe. Yeah, there are shops in the US that sell it, but it's not as easy. But don't worry, there are plenty of substitutions, and I'll talk about one a little bit later because I am knitting the second sample at the moment, so I will talk to you about that. So the top itself is knitted from the top down. You cast on the back neck, you do kind of increases at the shoulder to reach the width that you want it to be on the upper back, and then knit down to the armholes basically. Then you do the same on the front, picking up those stitches for the front, shaping that front neck, knitting to the armholes, and then from then on it's, you know, plain sailing. You've got a little bit of shaping to create an A-line shape, but overall it's a very easy breezy top. What I do love about it is if I just stand up here, it has this beautiful kind of textural hemline. It uses kind of a mixture of rib and garter stitch to create just a lovely feel, but it's subtle. It's not over the top. It's so wearable. And yeah, I can see myself wearing this a lot. What I like about it as well is it has a high back. So I remember growing up, like my mum my mum never wanted to show her back. She had an operation on her back and she was self-conscious about it. And summer tops are so tricky because if you want to wear a sleeveless summer top, often they have a lower back, and that was always kind of a tricky thing for my mum. And I actually loved the look of a higher back on a summery top, so I wanted to include it in this one, and yeah, I'm just so happy with how it came out. So yeah, this is my tempo top. I forgot to mention as well, all of the trims are very minimal, aside from obviously the one at the bottom. I just use a simple I-cord at the sleeves and around the neck, and yeah, it just lies really kind of, it's very, it's not very visible, and that's what I wanted. I want it to feel very minimalist except for this beautiful trim on the bottom. Okay, so the final sample that I want to show you that was knitted by my lovely sample knitter Nikki is my grosgrain slipover. I've been doing a lot of slipovers recently. Clearly it's a thing for me. But this is the grosgrain one. It's a lovely kind of wide fitting, wide on the shoulders, wide on the body, is oversized, slouchy slipover that has that kind of preppy touch. It's very simple and has some really sweet details. So for example, you can see here a lovely shoulder detail. Obviously you got that lovely stripe in the neck, and then just really nice kind of bordering around the shaping, same on the arms. It's a lovely piece. I am truly delighted with it. It has amazing drape. I knitted it, or Nikki knitted it, in Knitting for Olive merino held with the strand of the what's it called again? Something soft silk mohair. Just blanked. And the main colour is marzipan in both of those. For the pink and the green, I held two different shades together to achieve the colours that they are. So for the green section, this is a mixture of bottle green for the merino and petroleum green for the mohair. And what I like is, I have a particular shade of green that I really like. It's kind of, I've got a trench coat in it, and it's like it's a rich, deep green, but it leans slightly cool. Like it's not a true kind of tree green or like springy kind of green, or even like a forest green. It just leans slightly cool, but it's not teal. It's very specific. I love colour. So I get these things in my head and I just want to find things. So this I liked because I was able to take what I would consider like a real bottle green is a good colourway name for it, because it is that true bottle green. The petroleum green is what I would consider more of like a very dark teal. And because of combining the two together, it just took it a slightly cooler direction, and it achieved the colour that I was looking for. So I was very pleased with that. And then the pink is, I think it's wild berries in the merino and plum rose in the mohair. I combined the two because, to be honest, I wasn't being fussy about the pink. I would have been more than happy to have wild berries for both, but it seems that they didn't have that in mohair. So I just went with the two that I felt, you know, would be the closest match, and yeah, it worked really nicely. As you can see, I still have all my ends to weave in, but it has been blocked, and yeah, I've ordered yarn for the next one. I think I'm probably going to ask my sample knitter to make the second sample for me as well. This time I've gone for trying Sandnes Garn Sunday held with their tin silk mohair. That is kind of comparable to this, and I just wanted to see how it knitted up, see how it compared. And I've chosen like a rosy kind of pink colour, probably not unlike this, but maybe a bit deeper and I guess more dusty. I'm in my pink phase, clearly. So yeah, I'm excited about having that knitted up. What I really like about this pattern is that, you know, this stripe is all about using up scraps. I always have leftovers from projects. I guess I'm slightly more cautious yarn buyer in the sense that I would rather have yarn left over than play yarn chicken. So I do have leftover scraps, whether it's like a whole ball or a little bit of a ball, but these are perfect to just you know, use up in a project. So yeah, you can just use whatever yarn you have lying around that kind of meets roughly the weight of the sweater. So the two held together, it comes out more of like a DK weight, so you can either hold yarns together for that section, or if you just wanted to knit the whole thing in a DK weight, that would also work in terms of gauge, and you could just use scraps of DK yarn for the stripes. But yeah, it has a cool feel. I kind of like the preppy vibes it's giving, and yeah, I love the kind of chunky 2x2 ribs, how it's deeper on the bottom. I'm just really happy with this one. Something I should also mention is that I will be putting a call out for test knitters for this particular design any day now. So if you are interested in potentially test knitting for this, or maybe other patterns that I have coming up, then please do join my test knitting email list. I'll put a link to it in the description box, but it's the best way to find out about anything that I'm putting calls out for test knitters for. And yeah, this will be coming up very shortly, so keep an eye out for that. Okay, so we have reached the whip section, and I guess we're going to start the whip section with a couple of hibernations, shall we say. So the first one I would like to talk to you about is my mosaic, what is it called? The Welsh Mosaic Blanket. Now this is a crochet project. I've been working on it for a long time now. I started it, I think, back in September. It's now May. And to be honest, it was in hibernation for almost all of that time until I picked it back up maybe in January. And I have been kind of working on it relatively diligently since then. It's not been my primary project, but it's had work put into it every week. Now, I think it's time to put it into hibernation. You'll see here, it's getting big. It's really beautiful. I love the blanket. I love the kind of stark, high contrast colours. The pattern is by Natalie Caruso, and I'm knitting it using, let me check the name of it, Paintbox Yarns 100% wool worsted. The colours are vanilla cream and pure black. It's a very cheap and cheerful yarn, exactly what I was looking for, because this is the kind of blanket that is going to be on the couch. My toddler is chaotic, so it's going to get spills, it's going to get messy. I want to be able to just chuck it in the washing machine. So being a bigger piece as well, it's nice because it just keeps the budget down. So I have decided that I want to put it in hibernation mode for a little bit until it starts getting colder again, because I have so much I want to work on, and I know that this is going to be a big project and it will continue to take a lot of time. Like I've got a fair amount done, but there's loads left to go, right? So I don't feel that I want to sit with a huge blanket on my lap as the weather gets warmer. It's just not gonna, it's not what I fancy doing. So I'm putting it into hibernation. I anticipate I'll pick it up, you know, in the autumn. But yeah, I'm super happy with how it's going. The process is really interesting. I'm not really a crocheter. I can crochet, but I'm kind of basic. And this pattern uses a technique that I haven't used before. It's called overlay mosaic crochet. Mosaic overlay? Overlay mosaic? I don't know. But either way, it basically means that you're working one colour at a time, always from the right side, and you kind of work 2 rows in order to create 1 row. So it's time intensive, yarn intensive. It takes a long time to grow, shall we say. But the result is a really plush, graphic kind of stitch pattern. So it's totally worth it. It's really engaging to make. So swings and roundabouts. There are pluses to working this, but I do wish it would grow a little bit quicker. But anyway, that's an autumn problem. For now, it's just gonna stay in a little basket, and I'll come back to it when I'm ready. Okay, so the next project that I am gonna put into hibernation, I didn't expect to be putting this into hibernation, but you know when you know that you just need to have fresh eyes and come back to something, this is what this one is all about. So this is my Nimble t-shirt. I love this. I think it's beautiful, but I'm having trouble getting the fit and the design to work in the way that I imagined it. I could go ahead with it as it is and it would be fine, but I'm just not fully, I need to be happy with it. So I have put it on one side. I've knitted a couple of samples actually, or like parts of samples, and I'm on the right track, but what I'm finding is that in order to get it done in time for spring summer, I'm kind of behind. And what I think I will benefit from is putting it away, coming back to it in time to release it next summer, or next spring. So yeah, it's a bit gutting because I really want to have it out, I really want to wear it, but it's just not right, and my gut is telling me that it will benefit from some time out, and then I'll come back to it next year. So just to give you kind of a brief overview, it's a set and sleeve t-shirt, relatively, I wouldn't say fitted, but it's relaxed fit, it's not oversized. I use the CocoKnit's method of shaping the shoulders and kind of working the set and sleeve at the same time, kind of as the rest of the body. I'm using Knitting for Olive again in the merino, just held single this time, and I've got a main colour of putty, and then I've got Dusty Banana, Dusty Blue, let me check. No, Dusty Banana, Soft Blue, and Dusty Rose. And it's a lovely stitch pattern. This is going to be an amazing tee when it's done. It has all of the beauty of like a classic striped tee, but it has texture and colour, and yeah, when I've got it right, I'm going to be so thrilled with this. It's having folded trims on the body and also on the sleeves, and the neck, well, the neck I was going to do as a rib, and in fact in both of my samples I designed it as a rib, but actually I feel like maybe I'm just going to do folded trim on that as well, but that's something I'll come back to next year, see how I feel. But yeah, it's a bit gutting, but I know I'm making the right decision. I need to crack on really with autumn winter stuff now. So this was holding me up, and it's just not worth pushing back a bunch of other projects for this when I'm already a little bit kind of behind the timeline that's appropriate for it anyway. So yeah, it's a hibernation project. Okay, so moving on to projects that I actually intend to finish. We've got the Copenhagen cardigan by PetiteKnit. And I've made quite a lot of progress on this actually since my last episode. So I think I just maybe joined under the arms, maybe not even in the last episode, I can't remember. But either way, I have a completed body. There we go. And the start of a sleeve. Still have the other sleeve to go. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this project. It flies by. I'm knitting it in the smallest size because actually it's for my mum. My mum is a very petite lady, and I actually intend to kind of tweak, or have tweaked some of the measurements to kind of make it perfect for her, because I measured her when she came over one time. It's a birthday gift for her, which was back in February. I told her I was going to make her the kind of sweater of her choice. She chose the yarn, she chose the colour, she chose the pattern. The yarn is Rowan Alpaca Classic in the shade Peacock, and it's a very fuzzy, light yarn. It's one of those blown yarns, like alpaca blown yarns. So it's kind of got the cotton tube where you like, or like casing, I guess, where the alpaca is kind of blown into the tube. But yeah, it's a lovely project. I showed her it this past weekend, and she's so happy with it, which I'm really, it kind of gives me the motivation to carry on. And to be honest, it's a very quick knit. Like I say, it's the first size. I'm not used to knitting the first size, so it does fly off the needles, and it's a very open fabric as well. It's interesting to me because this yarn is supposedly like a sport weight yarn, but for me, sorry, it's supposedly a DK weight yarn, but for me it's more of a sport weight yarn, just because it does produce quite a open fabric, considering when you kind of knit it at a DK gauge. So yeah, lovely project, really enjoying it, and I don't know what else to say about it really. If you're not familiar with the pattern itself, it's knitted all at once, so you cast on for the neck straight away. You shape the neck using short rows, and then the raglan shaping is just like a classic kind of traditional raglan shaping rate, where you're increasing every other row, and it's not like got compound raglan shaping, but I am hoping that the fit will still be good. So far so good, but yeah, very pleased with it. It's looking extremely cute, and I cannot wait to see how it looks when it's finished. Okay, the next whip is probably a bit familiar. Can you believe that I have cast on another pair of broken rope socks? My third in a row. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a pattern by Summer Lee. It is in the Hello Sailor sock set, and it's, you know, just a classic broken rib sock. I like it a lot. Can you tell? To be honest, I had no intention to make another one of these. However, I was going to my parents' house for the weekend, and I wanted to have like just a simple project to bring with me, that I wouldn't have to it's like very easily packed, didn't have to think about it too much, could knit it on the train if my little boy would allow it to happen. I think I did get some train knitting done. But yeah, I just spontaneously cast it on. You may also see that the yarn is a bit of a departure for me. I don't do a lot of variegation or kind of rainbow yarns. It's just not really typically my personal style. But I was having a chat with my sample knitter Nikki, and Nikki has amazing style. Like, Nikki is very colourful, vibrant, and somehow we got onto the topic of kind of this type of yarn, you know, like the spin cycle type of yarn, where it's like, I guess you apply two different colours of yarn together and it kind of fades and blends and all of that. And I'm fascinated by them, and I love them in the skein actually, or the hank, but I'm not always sure that I will be happy with the result. But anyway, Nikki told me about, I think, let me get the name right, it is Jawoll, do a yarn called the Crazy Zauber Ball. I don't know, have I pronounced that correctly? I would be very happy if you can help me with my pronunciation if I have got it wrong. But Nikki said that this is like a nice kind of alternative, and it's very affordable compared. And so I thought I'd give it a try. I was in Loop, I saw they had a basket of Crazy Zorba balls, and I was like, I will give this a try. This colour palette for the yarn is lovely. So, I mean, I'm you know, a fair amount into the next sock. I just turned the heel yesterday, and I mean, you can see, oopsie, yeah, you can see that I don't have huge amounts left to do on the sock. I just need to do the foot. But I've got a lot of yarn here. But the colours are lovely. They're all the sort of colours that I love. You've got kind of rosy pinks, you've got kind of sunset oranges, yellows. There's like really nice kind of bright kind of lemony, limey yellow in there. There's greens, there's kind of turquoises, aquas. I love these sort of colours. So when I saw this ball, I snapped it up, because what I found, I can be quite specific about colour because I love colour and I have things in my mind. And so, and I can also dislike certain colours quite strongly. For example, so many purples I'm not a big fan of. I'm coming round to certain purples. I have a lilac handbag, can you believe? I never thought I would own a purple bag, but I've got a lilac bag now. But typically, you know, like if you're familiar with like a Cadbury's purple, or I suppose like Barney the dinosaur purple, not my thing. And so I can have, you know, I could see a beautiful ball or hank of yarn, and if one of the colours in that variegation is not my vibe, I'm just not gonna want to knit with the entire ball. So it can be tricky, like trying to find balls that work with what I like. So I saw this and I was like, yes, I'm gonna do that. Have some nice fun socks. I initially wondered if I would hold it together with a mohair to almost like dampen down the variation, like kind of like soften it, because it would have that strand of mohair throughout that would kind of bring a bit more continuity, I guess, to the fabric. But I decided in the end, like, let's lean into the crazy. The crazy Zorba ball is designed to be like really yeah, just like fun and lots of different colours and marling those colours, and I thought, you know what, let's just lean into it. So I did just hold it single, and yeah, I'm very happy with it, and I think these will be really fun to wear. So like I said, maybe I'm becoming a bit more adventurous with my socks now. That's what happens with knitting, right? I feel like it gives you an opportunity to try new things in a really fun way. So yeah, I'm enjoying knitting on these. These kind of just I don't know, they move along. They're not never like my primary project that I work on, but I do enjoy having them in my rotation. Oh, I should also mention the colorway of my socks. So like I said, it's the Shoppable Crazy Zaba Ball. The colorway is early autumn. So if you are looking for it, I would say it's the most beautiful color palette, in my opinion, that they offer for that yarn. I probably will try other colors of that yarn now, but I have to say, having browsed their website now, that colorway is just perfection. So have a look for it if you're interested. Okay, my final whip that I am working on is another version of my tempo top. Now I'm knitting this one myself, and I'm not using the BC Garn Summer and Kashmir for this one. I'm actually using Drops Saffron. So if I just hold it up, I've not long joined under the arm, so it's looking slightly weird, but isn't this a lovely colour? It's called Sage Green, and it's really a good substitution actually for the BC Garn. Even though it's 100% cotton, it feels much less hard than what I would typically associate with a cotton yarn. It has a lot of drape, it's not too structured, it has lovely stitch definition, and yeah, I mean, I had no issues meeting the gauge that I had for the Summer and Kashmir. So I'm thinking that for those of you who are struggling to get hold of Summer and Kashmir, or you just don't fancy it, Drops Saffron is a good choice, and they have so many colours, and I was absolutely gobsmacked by the price. Currently it's selling for £1.30. £1.30, like that's very, very affordable, and I love being able to offer those options with my patterns, having, you know, yarn options where maybe it costs slightly more, having options that are really budget. This will be a very budget friendly yarn to knit the project in, and you're not sacrificing, you know, like it creates a beautiful fabric. The colours are really fantastic. It was actually very hard to narrow down what colour I wanted to knit this in, but I did settle for the green just because I thought it's a lovely kind of summery colour. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how it's knitting up. It's kind of my primary project that I'm working on now that I've finished Albers. This pattern, as I said earlier, I will be releasing it at the end of June, so I need to crack on with this really, just so that I can get it finished and photographed before the pattern launches. It's in test knitting at the moment. So far so good. I'm enjoying seeing everyone else's versions of it. But yeah, I think I've kind of said everything I have to say about the pattern itself earlier on, but just to show you that drop saffron is a really nice alternative if you can't or don't want to use the summer in Kashmir. Something to note as well, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but both of these yarns are considered a sport weight. But what I will say is that based on the gauge, I can't remember what gauge I used, but it's definitely like a fingering weight gauge. So I guess I'm knitting it quite densely. Not that it's creating a dense fabric, but I'm knitting it quite tightly. And so you could certainly sub in a fingering weight yarn as well. Like, for example, the Knitting for Olive yarns would be fine because I think they're like 28 stitch gauge, and I'm like, is in terms of like a suggested gauge. And I would say that probably would match this really nicely. So yeah, could be an option. But yeah, really enjoying this project. So before we wrap up today's episode, I just wanted to remind you that if you are interested in test knitting my grosgrain slipover or any other patterns that I have coming up, then please do join my list of test knitters. It's basically a newsletter where I will email you if an opportunity to test knit comes up. So like I said, I'll be putting a call out for test knitters quite soon for the grosgrain slipover, so you can just keep an eye on your inbox and you'll be the first one to hear about it. I probably will share on social. I'm trying to get better at social, but the best way to ensure that you will hear about it when it opens up is by signing up to this email list. So do sign up for that. It's in the description box beneath the video. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so fun to chat about what I'm working on. I hope you had a lovely time, and I will see you next month. Bye.